Hello, Lukansky here speaking from SNowIT. Today I will present you the data source with REST and data stream integration hub, how to use them. And in our scenario, we'll have one incremental load where we will be using the REST call and also the bulk load when we will be using data stream. So in our case, we will use this poke API. As you can see, for the incremental load, we'll have something which will limit the input, the incoming data. As you can see, we'll limit it to two records. And as the bulk load, we'll have 1,300 records. And also, as you can see, the path to that records will be the results, right? So this API doesn't require any authentication, but I'll show you how to create one credential, but with OAuth authentication and also with basic authentication. So let's move on with the topic. So we need to go, if we want to move with OAuth authentication, we need to go to application registry. As you can see, I have created it already, and there is nothing special inside. I'm just placing the client ID, client secret, also the token, and automatically once you finalize this out provider, then this default profile will be created and we'll use it later on in the basic credentials. But in our purpose, we'll be using normal basic authentication, and we are starting here from creating the connection and credential alias. So as you can see, it's in here, and we are just providing the name, right? ID will be placed automatically. Then we need to create the connection in here, and this will be the HTTPS connection. As you can see, I have placed some data. So the connection alias is the previously created record, right? Connection URL is our API, and we have the credential. As now we are missing it, so we can create it by clicking magnifying glass, right? And then we can choose the basic auth credentials, right? And then we'll be navigate to creation record, and we have to place there some data. So as you can see in here, we are just providing the username and the password, and then we have this basic credential. So as an output from those actions, we have the connection alias which is working, right? Now we need to create a table where we will be importing the data. As you can see, this is now a poke API table, and what is most important, it extends table import set row, right? So then it can be used for the imports. And that's it. Currently, we won't create any fields because when we'll be triggering the REST call, then the fields may be created automatically when you have a property set to the default, which allows or don't allow to create those fields. So our REST call will create those fields that we require. Yeah, this is, as you can see, the setup of the table. Also, we can create a transfer map table. So as you can see, we have specified our table as a source. And to be honest, there is not much that we are setting up right now. So as you can see, we are just setting up the initials, all right, the target table. And the most important thing for now is that I have created one transform script. As you can see, it has ignore equal to true. So it means that it won't insert any record, right? So this is just for, let's say, our purpose. And later on, when we'll have those fields available in the table, we'll be able to specify the field maps. As you can see, I have used uname, which will be created, right? And some let's say particular fields, right? Some simple fields like the username, last name, email, and the first name. So let's move on. Now, as you can see, we have two data sources, right? One is using the REST, and the second one is using data stream. So as I said, the REST will be used for incremental load, like some small parts of the data, and the data stream will be used for bulk load, right? So let's start from the REST call. So as you can see, the type is REST and the format is JSON, right? The path for each row is, as you can see, results, and this is because we are pointing to our API response where exactly the fields are stored. I mean, the data is stored, right? In here you have the request action, and by clicking this thing, you will be able to create the template, I mean the flow action, and you will be using a template. So if you don't have it yet, just click on it and then you will be redirected to the flow designer directly, and you will be able to create your request action. Let's move on how this request action looks like. So it's very simple. We don't need to provide any data in here right now. In our case, we are just specifying the connection alias, which is SNowIT poke API. And as you can see, we have the base URL, and we need to just place our endpoint, right? And in this case, as I said, we limited the records to two, but we can use another filter like updated on, and then specify that we want to collect only the data which was updated 30 minutes ago or something like that, right? And that's it, right? We can test the action, but I'll test it through the scheduled job. So let's go back to our data source. And as you can see, I have also added those two related lists, which will be used in our case. So import sets and schedule data imports. And in here we have the schedule import, right? So if we create it for the data source, as you can see, we have some options, right? Which is most important, the run, right? So as you can see, I have set it to run periodically every 6 hours. But what is very useful, you can use after parent runs. So it means that if, for example, first you are loading the users and then later on you would like to upload the groups, you can create those two data sources to schedule data imports, and then you can set that one is the main and the second one runs after the first one is closed, right? So as you can see, I can specify after which one this should be triggered, right? But for our case, we'll use, I would say, periodically as it was, right? And we can execute it. So now it's executed. We can see in the imports that something is coming, and as you can see, it's already processed. So as the output from our side, you can see that it was ignored, right? And it found the target record and the comment that it was ignored by on before script. So this is the script that we have placed in our transform. So later on, when you will be ready with your setup, you can turn it off, and then those records will be created. And as you can see, that was simple call, so it has only one outbound, right? Let's switch to the data source. Sorry, to the data stream. So as you can see, we have created this data stream, right? What is important, you can use the inputs here. As you can see, we have created one input, which is the limit, right? And we can set up here the limit for the calls. And we need to align the setup of the data stream later on. But from this specific place, we are able to set up the limits, right? So let's see how this data stream looks like. As you can see, we have the input, right? So it's the integer. Then we don't need to any pre-processing scripts, etc. We are specifying the request. So we will be using REST. We want to use the pagination, and also we want to use the scripting in our case. So in pagination, you can see that the most important thing is the get next page, right? Which specify if the next outbound has to be placed or not. As you can see, in our case, we'll be using the limit page, and also sometimes you can use the next when your API returns the next, let's say, key, like the URL of the next page or something like that. You can use it, and you can grab it from the response body, right? So if I open it, normally we can use the JSON or XML and specify the path to that element, right? In this case, it would be next, right? But in our case, we will be using limit and the page. And what is important, we have this code. So in here, we want to set up the page and also handle it in the few further scripts. So in the second step, as the inputs, we are using the limit and the page from the previous step, right? As you can see. And now we are doing the magic. We are doing some sort of creating the link dynamically, right? So as you can see, we are using the Pokemon, and then we are using parameters as limit and the offset at the end, right? And we'll use it, as you can see, in the resource path, right? So previously we have used the connection alias, so, right? So as you can see, it's this one. It's wrong. We'll choose the correct one. So it's our SNowIT poke API, right? It's the same base URL. Now we are using the link, which will be Pokemon limit and offset, and that's it for this. Then we need to do the parsing, right? So we are choosing JSON and script parser in this case. In the split we need to set up the path for our results. As you could see, our let's say items are placed in the results array, right, in our JSON, which will have as a return. And then we need to specify the target objects. So we are just assigning the values to the fields, which will be used later on in the output as a URL and the name. And in here, we are using the object and we are specifying the name and URL. So if you go in here, you will see, that this is the name and the URL. And these two fields will be used later on. So this is how it looks like, right? We can test it, how the output looks like. We can set up the limit to 2. And as you can see, we can grab only 20 items from the testing. So let's see what will be the output from there. So as you can see, it's completed, right? And now we have the output, right? So you have 20 items. And then also you can see the page details, right? So you have 5 queries and you can review all of the incoming data and outgoing data. So let's move back to our data source. We can trigger it. Let's execute. Yep, so now as you'll see, it's loading, right? So as the output, we are supposed that we'll have several outbounds, right? As we set up the limit. So we had 1,300 records, so it means that we may have 14 outbounds. So let's wait for it. Oh, as you can see, it's processed. Let's open it. And as you can see, we have our records, so it's fully loaded, and also we have 15 outbounds, right? And then you can see that all of them were successful. So our mission is completed. We have 2 things which are collecting the data. One is the REST call, and second one is data stream. Data stream can be used for bulk loads, like every week or every month, and the REST call can be used for incremental loads. So this is it. How the Bulbasaur Pokemon looks like in our table. As you can see, user ID is set, first name is set, last name is set, and also the email. So this is something that we specified in the transform app. So this is it. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Visit our website. You can see the blog. Some new posts will be coming in the next weeks. So thank you for watching and see you in another video.